Are negative Google reviews hurting your business? Don't let unfair feedback cost you customers. At Webamax, we specialize in removing false, misleading, and damaging reviews so your online reputation stays strong. Our expert team works quickly and legally to clean up your digital presence, helping you rebuild trust. Visit us on the web at www.gowebamax.com. That's GOWEBIMAX.com, or text us for a free quote at 856-840-8343. Don't let bad reviews define you. Get immediate help from Webamax.
Hey there, Duke fans. Episode 691 of the Duke Basketball Roundup, the DBR podcast. Jason Evans here with you. I'm joined by Donald Wine. It is 9 a.m., bright and early, on a Thursday morning, the morning after the Blue Devils pretty thoroughly thrashed Syracuse. Final score 83-54. Donald, how you feeling this morning?
I this seems like a broken record these days, but that was a fun game to watch, wasn't it?
Yes.
Very. I called my dad like a little bit later after the game. I was watching some other stuff and then gave him a call, and he was like, "Yeah, you've had a very stress-free week when it comes to Duke basketball," and he's absolutely right.
One of the things that was interesting about this game, before we get to the headlines and everything, just really fast on what I mentioned, Ken Pomeroy breaks everything down by quarters. Every 10 minutes is a quarter as far as he's concerned, even though in college basketball, technically it's halves. Duke won every single quarter. So there was never a let up. They won the first quarter by 8, the second by 6, the third by 7, and the fourth by 8. It was just like, consistently going uphill. The lead just kept on growing throughout the whole game. Again, a very easy game to watch. This Duke team, you can tell when a team is special. I really feel like, I vividly recall in recent years, and Duke's had some really, really good teams. And you'd be like, oh, I wonder if we're going to pull this one out, or oh, this is an opponent that may give us trouble. I don't know. I don't know what it is, man. I was talking to some friends before the Syracuse game, and a friend of mine was like, this feels like a trap game. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, are you kidding? I was like, we're going to crush Syracuse. We're really, really good, really, really consistent. The things we do well are not things that are open to a lot of defense is always there. Getting
Did
good
they not
shots
listen
is
to the
always
preview?
there.
Did they not listen to the preview where we calmed the fears of everyone saying that this was a trap game? And look, Jason, it very much wasn't. I know we'll talk about why, but the idea that this was a trap game was ended in the first 9 seconds of this basketball game.
Yeah. Yeah. Layup, like right off really easy layup.
Literally right off the draft. You're like, oh, okay, cool.
All right, let's get to our headlines on this contest. Again, the DBR podcast at gmail.com inbox just overflowing with options. I tried to go with some folks this time who we don't hear from as much. We got a staple of about 10 to 15 folks. Maybe closer to 10 than 15 who send us headlines every single game without fail. They are great, and we use them all the time. You hear those names from us again and again. I tried to go with some names you don't hear as often this time, Donald. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's cool. And I will say that for, again, a midweek game, what some people were calling a trap game against a team from Syracuse, this was a particularly good one in terms of headlines. We got a lot of great headlines that we're not going to be able to read. You were going to go with some people that we haven't heard from. I'm just going to go with the ones I thought were the best, and we'll see if they overlap. How about that?
There we go. All right. We'll start with Jeffrey Lamb, who we've heard from a few times in the past. But Jeffrey gave us, what can Brown do for you? Malik delivers in return to Cuse. I thought Malik Brown, one of the big stories of this game.
You took the first one I was going to have, so I'll go with my second one, which is from Matthew Green, again, someone who's kind of written in a couple times. And he goes, freshly squeezed. Talks of trap game prove premature, as Duke says, Sierra later to the Cuse, which I thought was a great use of Syracuse.
I like that. Grace Styler, who I think is new, at least I don't recall reading a headline from her on the podcast in the past, gave us once more. Sorry, let me try it again. Once wore orange, now dressed in blue, Malik Brown dominates Syracuse crew.
Jason, you took my third one, so I'm just going to move to my fourth one. This is great. You're just going through my list for me. We're going to go with Ken Swanner. Ken Swanner wrote, "Excuse Duke while we squeeze your orange and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze."
I like that one. I like that one. Jonas Schwartz. He said his children, Jack and Clara, age 12 and 8, made this headline. Now, this is not one of the best headlines, but when he said his kids had done this, I was like, oh, I'm reading it. They said Malik leads Duke back to old stomping grounds and makes orange juice. That sounds like a headline a 12 and an 8-year-old would make, but I love that. Jack and Clara, you keep on doing it, kids.
First of all, Jonas and Laura, great friends of mine, lived with them in college. And we talk fairly frequently. Jonas has his own podcast, so we have talked about how we started and everything. But when he sent Jack and Clara's, Jason, that was going to be the fifth one.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
We are literally going. This is great for me. But I'm running out of ones that I thought were really top level. But there is one that we got early this morning from our man John Grantland, and it's very simple, Jason. Dome coming. Brown's D turns the orange blue and Malik's triumphant return to Syracuse.
Yeah, I love Dome coming. That's really clever. My last one is a limerick. Bill Slayton. You guys know I love limericks. We got several of these, and I always pick the best one. Here's Bill Slayton's limerick on this game. Pre-game, the Cuse fans were all flushed with dreams of a post-game court rush. But Malik's magic hands stole the show, spoiled their plans, and served them a glass of orange crush. Nice job, Bill Slayton.
Yes. Again, thank you to everyone. Again, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. We like headlines after every single game, again, after the game. But this was an especially good one because a lot of there were some that we thought that we really liked that we can't read on the show. And we've responded to a few of you, but they were good. I'm telling you, there's a lot of good ones here. Keep them coming.
I also wanted to comment really quickly. Joe Nagy was at the game and sent us an email. And he commented that it was just incredibly quiet. No chants, minimal cheering. He said folks started streaming out with about 10 minutes to go. And I just want to say it's sad how far a great program has fallen. And part of this is we need to really appreciate Coach K going out on top, not waiting too long. And John Shire, of course, stepping in, the smoothest transition you've ever seen between a legendary coach and his successor, and keeping the program where it needs to be. Because look, Adrian Autry, he's only been there 2 years. He's not in the hot seat. And he has a nice recruiting class coming in next year, including Kyan Anthony, who's Carmelo Anthony's son. But Syracuse is just a far cry from what they were like a decade and a half ago. For 6 years in a row, this is a top 15 team. Like every year, book it. They were top 15. Mm-hmm. They were getting 1, 2, 3 seeds, 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds in the NCAA tournament. They were really good for a long time. And it's, as Duke fans, I don't think we appreciate enough the fact that our program stays on top. All these other programs, they get up and then they go down.
So they have a tradition at Syracuse that everyone in the first of all, you wouldn't know at the beginning of the game that the program has faltered because there was still 27,000 people there. They draw. I mean, every time Duke comes up there,
outrageous.
It draws 27,000, or I think they've set the on-campus record a few times for the NCAA with like 36, 37,000. Of course, because they play in the football stadium, and they have that tradition that at the beginning of the game, everybody stands until Syracuse makes their first point, and they cheer the entire time. Jason, in the second half, we first of all, we scored the first points of both halves. Again, we scored 9 seconds into the game. We scored like 10 seconds into the second half. And in the second half, I definitely saw people who were like, yeah, I'm not waiting for Syracuse to score. And they sat back down. That's how deflated we made them very quickly. And I think, we talked about this in the preview. Syracuse as a program was one of the top programs in college basketball history. Then they entered the ACC, and they had that first couple years where, the Duke-Syracuse games were dynamite, right? Like K versus Boeheim.
Yeah.
Must-see TV.
A tiny notch below the Carolina game. I mean,
prime time on Saturday night, game day would go to Syracuse. They wouldn't become the one here, but they're in Durham, but they would go to Syracuse. And Syracuse since then has just been, like we said, a middle-of-the-pack ACC team, if that. And, they've struggled really hard and they need to figure out how to turn the program around to not think about their old history, but maybe to start creating a new one where they start to, compete for the upper echelon of the ACC again, because that is what college basketball is. And that's, what we tried to get when we brought Syracuse into the conference. And that's, we kind of haven't received that. So it's disappointing in that regard. But in the case of Duke last night, it was still fun.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't bring it up so much to lament Syracuse's decline, which is something we do lament, but I brought it up to remind everyone of what a very, very special, special, special thing we have going on in Durham, not just this season, but ongoing for 40 plus years now. It's
Right.
kind of crazy. Let's get to this game, though, because that's what we're here for. And we start with the good, and I'm going to start with the defense. We force Syracuse to take tough shots again and again and again. This is just what we do. The switching, the communication, the hands in the lane, our sheer size, our length. It's next level. All these guys, and by all of them, I'm even including all the way down to Isaiah Evans, Patrick Gongba. Everybody in this team knows what to do. They know where to be. They know what they want to be. It's this game was such a contrast in styles, by the way. Like Duke would shoot layups or open threes while Syracuse is fighting the shot clock to get a contested fadeaway. I mean, you knew who was going to win this game based on the type of shots they were getting. Like Duke shot fairly well. Doesn't even matter that Duke shot well. It was that Syracuse was having such a difficult time getting the shots they wanted, getting into the offense they wanted. And as the announcers noted, we do all this without fouling. Mm-hmm. Syracuse shoots just 4 free throws in this game. They didn't make a free throw until Nakeem McLeod drained 2 free throws with like 3 minutes left. Come on. And I'm going to segue right into it, Donald. Usually I do the big themes before I do the players. Malik Brown's getting a mention right now.
Before we get to Malik Brown, let me say this. You mentioned the defense, and I know we'll talk more about it. The 12-2 run we had in the first half was based on 2 things. Mostly the defense, because we were stifling them. And I think there was a couple times, or at least once, where they would try to back down for one of those, step back shots, so turnaround jumpers, and the shot clock would run out, and they were just dribbling, and they still would dribble for like 3-4 seconds after the shot clock expired, and they're turning and looking at the team like, yo, why didn't y'all tell me? Because that's how they're like, hey, what could we do? You were not going to pass us the ball because we're covered too. So the defense really, really, affected that, but also the zone that Syracuse had. They did the zone for exactly 4 possessions. We were 4 for 4 with 12 points. End of zone. That was fun. So again,
I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
But I just very quick we'll talk about the zone a little bit more, but that stretch, that 12-2 run was all zone and us just, again, finding our shots and making them, but it was initiated once again by our defense.
Yeah. So I wanted to get to Malik Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we forget, he was injured even before he was out with the injury. He was battling like sort of a nagging injury as well. We forget how otherworldly this guy is on defense. He comes the instant impact. He came in the game. I think he hadn't officially even been in the game yet. He was on the court. The clock hadn't started, and he was already knocking balls away.
He came in to booze, right? Like there were some people booing him. It was his first time, of course, back in the dome, and it was coming in on an inbounds play for Syracuse, and all you hear is boo, and then the ball doesn't go 14 inches because he just swats it right back out of bounds. Like try again.
Yeah, I mean, such an instant impact on defense. He's knocking all these balls away. He had 3 steals, felt like he had 13. He's just outrageous. And it's worth noting, Malik Brown led the team in plus minus. He was a plus 24 in his 22 minutes of playing time. He would switch on to their point guard. No big deal. He'd switch on to Lampkin and McLeod, who are monsters, 250, 260 plus pounds in the post. No big deal. He can do whatever he wants on the defensive end of the floor. And on offense, he was a connector. I'm going to talk more about the passing. We're going to, are we going to talk about the passing? Mm-hmm. But Malik Brown is a great connector on offense. I just thought he had an outstanding game. The Ken Pomeroy gives an MVP each game, and amazingly, you know who won the? Did you see who won the MVP this game?
I didn't.
Sion James.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, Sion.
We'll talk about him, but I thought that's a good shout.
Yeah, Sion was Duke's MVP this game, breaking a long streak where it had been either Cooper or Khan Knippel like forever, back to December, something like that. So Sion gets in here with a little MVP award, but I would have personally, if we were giving a player of the game, which we don't, we do a player of the week, but my player of the game would have been Malik Brown, because I just thought his impact on both ends of the floor was truly amazing in his homecoming. Boy, you saw how much Syracuse misses him.
I was going to say, Ken Pom is great at everything he does, except for one thing. It does not count. The computer does not count the intangible of a guy returning to a place that he played 2 years at to dust his old team. Like, it doesn't include that if it did, there would be MVP probably labeled in Malik Brown from the second he entered the game. But I appreciated the fact that, like, after the game, John Shire talked about, he was asked a question of whether he had talked with Malik about coming back, and he said, "Yeah, I brought it up, but he just was locked in. He said, I'm ready to go." And he's like, he doesn't say much, and from that point, I knew he was going to be ready, like he always is, and he was. And I also noticed, how they do the post game handshakes, and sometimes you lean in, especially in this transfer portal era, when guys come back and to a place that they played ball at once. You remember when Jaden Shute came back to from Virginia Tech? He came back, and there was a nice long embrace from him and John Shire. They weren't like yamming it up, but very much all love, no love lost there, right? But I think when you looked at Autry, he just kind of blew past Malik Brown as if he was some normal player, and I'm like, yep, that's probably why he's in Duke Blue, and that's probably why he decided that this game he was going to have one of his best games of the season, and his defense, his deflections. And the thing is, Syracuse knew, right? This is a guy they was on their team for 2 years, so they knew what he brought to the table, and yet he still was able to add another dynamic to his game that even they couldn't comprehend or defend. And I thought it was great that he was active on the scoring end as well. Normally, we just see him on the defensive end, but he was active in passing, as you mentioned. He was active in finishing at the rim, and I thought for a guy who could have had some emotions in returning to a place that he called home for 2 years, I thought he had one of the best games, honestly, that a Duke player's had all year. And yes, I'm counting Cooper's 42, because it takes a lot to go back into a gym that and just lead by example. And that's what he did. And so I'm really proud of that fact. And man, I'm glad that he decided to come to Duke.
Yeah, my last thing I wanted to mention about Malik, and you were talking about Adrian Autry sort of blowing by him in the handshake line. I wonder if there was a little something going on with Syracuse sort of saying, we're not going to let Malik Brown score on us. Because there was that incredible play, which is play of the game contender, where Malik was guarding the mountainous Eddie Lampkin. And Lampkin was so focused on Malik that he didn't see Sion James. Sion comes in with a blindside strip, just takes the ball right away from him. And they go the other direction. Cooper Flag ends up finding Malik Brown, who after guarding the guy who got stripped, had raced up court and was in line for a dunk, and a Syracuse guy fouled him so hard they instantly called an F1. And then there was another play a couple minutes later where Syracuse fouled him again, and I was sort of like, I think maybe they've said he's not going to get any baskets. Well, it's worth noting that Duke was like, yeah, no, you don't get to determine that for our man,
right?
Because at the 14:50 mark, Sion James made a gorgeous one-handed pocket pass for an absolute thunder slam by Malik. And it's worth noting that like a minute and a half or so later, Malik returned the favor with a great pass to Sion for a layup. There was just some great stuff going on involving Malik Brown.
It's very selfish of Duke to say, hey, you don't get to determine when Malik Brown scores, but on defense we absolutely dictate when they score, which is very little. So I like the selfishness that's coming from that part of our team. Keep it up.
Yeah, as we get to the next thing in the good, I want to talk about the ball movement, the ball control. Duke has 18 assists on 30 made baskets. That's a 60% assist rate. But we only had 6 turnovers. 18 assists and 6 turnovers. As a team, we had a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. But that doesn't even tell the story, because a couple of those 6 turnovers came in like the final 2 minutes or so. I don't want to blame the deep bench or anything, but things got a little bit sloppy, when we went all the way to the very, very, very end of the bench, and there were a couple turnovers that happened in there. The 7 Duke players, the 7 guys who played 20 plus minutes, had a grand total of 2 turnovers among them. Are you kidding me? How does that even happen? But in addition to the turnovers was the passing. I had a couple people. I had written this down. People who email me and text me. I want you to know I had already noticed the same thing. I've had multiple people say to me, God, it kind of reminded me of, the championship Spurs teams, the Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker teams, where the passing was just like, it was just a thing of beauty that was happening all the time. That's what Duke was like last night a little bit. The passing was just so great. And as a result, in the second half, Duke shot 69% from the field. That's a huge 69%. That's outrageous.
Nice.
Again, that doesn't even tell the story, because we were 3 of 8 on 3-pointers. If you take out the threes, Duke was 15 of 18. 15 of 18 on 2-point field goals in the second half. That's 83%. Come on. Other than Cooper Flagg taking those sort of mid-range shots, which I've got no problem with. I mean, I know usually I'm like,
because he's making them, yeah.
Yeah, he's making them right. He had one that he shot like one-handed. It was just like, I'm sorry. That NBA, that's Kevin Durant scores that way. It was crazy stuff. But other than Cooper Flagg taking those mid-range shots, Duke basically in the second half especially shot nothing but layups and threes. Layups and open threes. As a guru, as someone who loves efficient basketball, I will tell you right now, layups and threes, I approve.
Yeah. I will say, just in the amount of passing that we did, first of all, it's funny, one of my group chats, we were all texting, and this was like maybe 4 minutes into the game, and they're like, hey, it just feels like we're not moving the ball around. We need to move the ball around a little bit more. And I was like, yeah, I thought we started out slow in that regard. And we talked about in the preview how if there's one thing that Syracuse does well in defense, it's they don't allow you to get a lot of points off the pass because they're so busy giving up baskets very quickly into the shot clock. And so when we ran our offense, I was like, hey, we kind of feel a little stagnant. And then right out of the TV timeout, we went off. And it felt like every play was the result of a pass. And it's, again, if this was a game, if hockey assists were a thing, we would have 47 hockey assists, because all of these, like a lot of these weren't just like, hey, I passed one time and someone takes a shot. It was like pass the ball around the horn, pass it inside, outside, bing, bang, bong, and then all of a sudden it ends up in the person who brought the ball up ends up under the basket, wide open for a layup. So the amount of passing really, really like just made Syracuse confused. You could tell them kind of looking around like, where are these guys going? What are they doing with this? And all of a sudden it ends up behind them, right?
They would play really good defense for like the first 2 or 3 phases of the Duke offense, and then it's not their fault. You just can't. The ball's moving so fast and so fluidly, and everyone knows where each other needs to be, that there's no way the defense they don't have a chance.
The ball moves faster than a human being, right? Like I can throw a ball 60 miles an hour. I cannot run 60 miles an hour as much as I try. And so when again, and also as a defender, especially in the zone, right? They were doing a lot of passing, and they thought we talked about how a lot of times to break that 2-3 zone, you put a guy right at the free throw line and you try and make it work. Well, we did that one time. I think Tyrese Proctor got it right at the free throw line. And instead of shooting, he started like he was about to shoot. You saw Naheem McLeod kind of close out on him, and he passed it out to, I think it was Sion James in the corner, who hit the 3 and made him call a timeout. And again, we went 4 for 4 in the zone, but it was because we passed the ball around to the point where like Syracuse is like, I'm standing in one spot and I don't know where my man or the ball is. And you could just see them kind of throw up their hands and be like, yo, coach, this ain't working. Let's try something else. But the passing was there all night. And if we pass the way we do, like that we did last night, I don't know a team that can stop us. We did this against Auburn, right? And Auburn has one loss this year, and it's to us. And it's on a night where we pass like that. So again, that might be the best team in the country if we can pass like that.
Speaking of the passing, I did want to shout out someone. Isaiah Evans.
Mhm.
4 assists in this game. And I want to be clear about something earlier in the day. There was a conversation happening on the Duke Basketball Report forums. And I was participating in that conversation. People were talking about Isaiah Evans, and I pointed out a disturbing statistic about Isaiah coming into this game, which was that he had a ridiculously low assist rate for a guard, for a guy playing for Duke. His assist rate was the second lowest on the team. Only Khaman Maluach had a lower assist rate, and it's worth noting that Khaman Maluach basically gets the ball and dunks it. That's all he gets rebounds, he dunks. Like he's not the ball's just not in his hands in a assist kind of way. And I was pointing out that it's a problem that Isaiah Evans had this incredibly low assist rate. And clearly Isaiah Evans reads everything that I write on the DBR forums because he decided to show me up by having 4 assists against Syracuse. It is worth noting he still has the second lowest assist rate on the team to Khaman Maluach, but he is now way, way closer to guys like Mason Gillis and the other guys who have low-ish assist rates after that performance last night.
And that's good, right? Because you need Slim to have an extra element. You don't. I mean, as good as he is at shooting the basketball from beyond the arc, you don't want everybody when he comes in the game go, well, we know what he's about to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
he's
sure,
not one-dimensional. He's not one-dimensional.
We know what his intentions are, right? We know what we would like him to do. But the fact that he was able to again find guys again makes a defense go, God, they just want to take a break when the bench comes in the game. And last night, the bench did not give them any breaks. That's what you want the bench to do. You want them to be little drop off. And when they come in, you don't have to go, oh, the guy that's checking Isaiah Evans gets to take a possession off because he knows unless he has the ball in his hand, he's not going to do anything. When he has the ball in his hand, the fact that he was making passes as well as shots is incredible. So I really enjoyed that part about it.
I wanted to talking about Isaiah Evans leads me into the bench play, and I did want to mention how well I thought our bench performed in this contest. We ended up getting 28 points from the bench guys. It felt like everybody, even all the way down to Darren Harris, had really, really nice moments off the bench. The 28 points were not like one guy going off, although Isaiah Evans, had a nice percentage of them. It was everybody contributing. And we had a listener, Jason Perkins, who was at the game, and he wrote to us and commented how much, his seats were in a position where he could see this, how much the Duke bench would explode every time Caleb Foster got a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
These guys have his back. Foster is struggling. This year is really, really not going the way he would like it to go. And we know that he can be a better player than he has shown past couple months. And to see the bench, to see all these guys recognize we've got a teammate who needs us to lift him up, I thought was really, Jason's right. These guys have his back. And then the other thing I wanted to mention about the bench was, of course, Mason Gillis is sick and doesn't play. And as a result, we get a lot of Malik Brown playing the 4, which we don't see very much. He played the 4 with Patrick Gongba and Man at the center. And there was a little bit of time where we had one of Big Pat or Man in the middle, Brown at the 4, and Cooper Flagg was on the floor as well, playing a legit 3, which we don't see very much. That's a really, really big lineup. We also at one point had a lineup where Patrick Gongba and Man were in the game together. 2 centers. I don't know who was playing what at what time. Duke is so positionless and guys moving around and stuff. But I just thought the bench play was really, really outstanding. I want Mason Gillis back. We need him back very soon. But Duke did not miss a stride at all without him.
John Shire mentioned that Gillis was sick and the fact that he was still they're like, yo, man, he's an incredibly strong player. So the fact that he's not here tells you how sick he really is. And he was still trying to get on the plane. And John Shire's like, yo, keep your butt here. Like we like, not to say we don't need you for this game, but like, yo, we need you healthy. We'll have you back when you're healthy, but like, don't get on this plane. There's no point for you to do that. Right. But I also noticed that Caleb Foster didn't enter the game until after Patrick and Gongba, after Malik Brown did. So
Isaiah Evans, yeah. Actually, the first guys
Evans,
off the bench were Malik Brown and Isaiah Evans.
Yeah, and that's not That was
And I
something that was
and I
noticeable.
Isaiah played more minutes than Caleb Foster did in this contest.
Yes. But again, I think that this just shows because I had people text me like, "Yo, is Caleb Foster sick too?" And I was like, "No, he's on the bench. He just might be that far down the rotation." But the first part that he was on the floor, he really looked like he was struggling, like from a confidence perspective. And so the fact that he
Yeah.
was able to kind of do a little bit better in the second half and really show, hey, I can overcome this and have a good game and provide in areas. I think that's great. I also think it's great, like you mentioned, the bench. I think it's great that Darren Harris came in and contributed quite a bit when he was on the floor, right? And Gongba did, Malik Brown obviously did. Uh, Slim was doing stuff. The whole bench. We want the bench to be this unit where whenever they check in, no team can go, okay, this is the time where we make our run, right? And that should be a personal challenge to them is like, hey, when we come in, we leave them just as demoralized as the starters did when they checked out. So I liked the fact that they were able to all contribute different areas, and especially for Caleb Foster, we need him to continue to build. And yes, 4 points may be 4 points, right? He may get two, but we want to see that progression because again, we're going to need him in March. We're going to need, Gongba in March. We're going to need, Mason Gillis healthy in March. And so when these guys show the confidence that they do in a game like tonight is going to really help us when we need to turn to them in the clutch when things really do count.
So it's kind of interesting as we get close to wrapping up the good. And I know you got one more thing you want to mention, but before we run, I wanted to say this. Uh, we have not mentioned the names Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple very much at all. They had kind of a quiet game. We didn't need them as much, and they decided to just let other guys do most of the cooking for them, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Con had 0 assists. Cooper only had 2. Now it's worth noting if we counted hockey assists, Cooper would have had about 5, 7,
17.
12 more.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he also had at least 3 passes that I counted where he made a great pass and Syracuse had no choice but to foul the Duke player and put him at the free throw line. You don't get an assist if your guy is on his way to making a layup and they crush the other guy. That doesn't count. But there should be some recognition of that. But hand in hand with Cooper and Con kind of having a quieter game was I thought Sion James and Tyrese Proctor were really, really good. They picked the right spots. They were both super efficient. They combined. Tyrese had 16 points on 12 shots. Sion had 10 points on 5 shots. They combined for 6 assists and no turnovers. Really, really, I don't even need to mention they were unbelievable on defense because they are every damn game. A really, really solid game from the entire team, of course. But I wanted to specifically mention our starting backcourt, which I thought was excellent.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those guys. I will also mention part of when we talk about all the 19 plays that are up for play of the game. I will mention the fact that Man it was listed as 6 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 blocks, and I feel like he contributed in all of those categories way more than he was given statistically, including an assist. That I will talk
I was going to
about.
mention this. I was going to
Yeah,
mention this.
wait, save it, because we'll talk about it.
He needs an
But
assist. Someone
there's
talk
a
to the
yeah.
Syracuse official score. It's an assist.
Somebody owes me an assist for Man. But I always say, Tyrese Proctor, Sion James, Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple. The fact that those 4 kind of rotate as to who takes the lead is something again that makes this so much more versatile, makes it so much harder to guard. That Cooper Flagg only took 7 shots, and John Shire is like, he's like, I'm almost mad at him for only taking 7 shots.
Yeah.
But he's so focused on getting everybody involved that we talked about this in the preseason. He's a guy who's going to he could give you 30 one night and win the game. He could give you 10 the next night and still win the game for you. It's hard to kind of read how good Cooper Flagg is when he only takes 7 shots and has 11 points and 5 rebounds and 2 assists and 2 blocks and dominates a basketball game. Because that's just how he is, and he's not focused on anything else other than leading his team and helping his team win. And sometimes that leadership that he presents is in the form of hey, let's let my other teammates eat. Let's let, Tyrese Proctor hit all these threes. Let's let, Malik Brown do work in his return to the dome. Let's let Sion James have a great night. Let's have Khan Knippel just have his normal, 12 points and a couple of steals, right? That is what this team is all about. No egos, it feels like. Everyone's playing their role. And when people are out, next person steps in and everybody kind of helps them absorb the responsibilities that person who's missing was bringing to the table. So this team's different, man. This team's different, and it's fun to watch. And the fact that we are having some stress-free games, again, that doesn't mean the rest of the season is going to be this way, but let's enjoy right now for what right now is.
Yeah, as we wrap up the good, I know you wanted to talk about the pace of play. Duke had
what pace?
This is the slowest tempo of any game all year.
Yeah, well, I was going to say what pace. They only had 60 possessions, which is far and away the lowest all year. And again, on defense, Syracuse is one of the fastest tempos in the country. They're like, everybody shoot quickly so we could go the other way. And so it's kind of interesting that this was the game that was really slow. And I think, again, there was a lot of times where both teams were able to really get deep into their shot clock. Duke had a couple, at least 2 or 3, where the shot clock went off, and one where, again, somebody, I think it was Lampkin, was backing down man.
That was hysterical.
He was just backing it down. The thing is, the horn sounds, and he's still dribbling like, what? That horn's not for me. Keeps dribbling, and the referee's like, no, that was for you. Yeah, your time's up. You got to go the other way. And he looks at his team like, why y'all ain't tell me? So it's clear as day. And his teammates are looking like, you had 8 seconds left when you got the ball. Like, you held the ball for 10 seconds. What do you want us to do? So again, those are the sort of plays where your defense just like, I know the Duke bench, you can hear them all just like hamming it up. Like, oh, like shot clock's out. And you could also hear that, like Cameron, how on defense, the Cameron crazies will, do a false countdown for the opposing team. You heard that in the dome last night from Duke fans. So shout out to the few of you that were there, because we could hear you. And I don't know if it was the bench either that was doing it, but there was definitely times where Lampkin would get the ball and they're like 3, 2, 1, and they had like 15 seconds left. So you try to force them into making a bad pass or taking a shot. But again, those are things that we reserve for Cameron. But to take that show on the road really confused Syracuse, and it showed.
We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we searched far and wide, and we came up with a couple things to mention that are bad from this game. Plus, can a block and an assist happen at the same time? That story when we return. All right, guys, it's football time, and this ain't the little itty-bitty teeny-tiny bowl. This is Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59.
Jason, the key to winning Vince Lombardi Trophy? Scoring touchdowns. And you have a shot to score big by picking who you think will score a touchdown in the big game at DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns.
Yeah, just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use this code DukeBB. That is code DUKEBB for new customers to get a $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Hey guys, want better performance? And when I say performance, I'm talking about all areas of your life. If the answer to the above question is yes, try Joy Mode Daily to support healthier blood flow, improved heart health, and enhance your athletic performance. Expertly formulated and backed by science, it's proven to improve performance by 50% in just 60 days.
Yeah, you just simply mix a pack with water and feel the effects within 45 minutes. Take control with Joy Mode. Get a boost anytime, anywhere, and never miss a beat. Start a subscription and save up to 30%. Keep your performance at its best without any interruptions.
If you're looking to take your game to the next level, visit tryjoymode.com and use code DukeBB at checkout for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. That's tryjoymode.com and use code DukeBB for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders.
All right, we're back from the break, Donald, and we have to do the bad. I was scuffing here, man. Ladies
and gentlemen, we are reaching through the bottom of the barrel. We've dug a hole below the barrel, and we're reaching into that because yes, there's a couple things, but I don't know, JC. I'm gonna let you start because I'm not sure where to go first.
All right, so I got one for you.
Okay.
Second chance points.
Okay.
We let Syracuse get 15 offensive rebounds. They are not ordinarily a good offensive rebounding team. They got a lot of second chance opportunities, and I believe they won. I need to look again at the box score. I believe they won the second chance points battle. It's worth noting that Duke shot
11-7.
Duke shot 83% in the second half on 2-point baskets. Duke shot almost 70% from the field, so there were lots of opportunities for second chance points, but Syracuse did get a pretty fair number of offensive rebounds, so I wanted to mention that one. I guess I also we had kind of a slow start. We scored in the opening possession. We then went about 4 minutes with only one other basket, a man fast break dunk kind of situation. A little bit cold at the start, I guess. Yeah. What else you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, those are the two things. The first thing, the 15 offensive rebounds by Syracuse led to them out rebounding us by 33-32. So again, that was something that I had mentioned as a something to watch for this game, and I want that to not be a trend. So again, limit the offensive rebounds. This game's even more of a blowout, right? But it's still things that you got to work on because better teams will take advantage of those offensive rebounds, just like Syracuse tried to do with the second chance points. And like you, I thought we started out kind of slow. Despite the fact that we scored 9 seconds into the game, it took a while for our offense to really generate points from itself, as opposed to our defense generating offense for our offense. And so that's something that, again, tweaks can be made. It could be the matchups. It could be the team, but against, in Clemson, right? You want to start out on Saturday with a hot start to kind of quiet that gym, because we know how Little John can get, and you're going to be there to witness it. But I think at the end of the day, these are little things, right, that you can work on to make yourself a complete game. This is as close to a 40-minute performance that we've had. But right now, if you're looking at the time, it was a 37.5-minute performance, right? So let's get closer to 40 every single game.
So one other, and I bring this up so often, but I do want to note it again in the bad, which is that Caleb Foster continues to be a ball stopper. When the passes come to him, his first instinct is to put it on the ground and dribble. And I don't mean to dribble right immediately to the basket. Sometimes he's just dribbling right in front of himself, and it just slows down the pace of the offense. He also got absolutely stripped clean one time. He had a couple turnovers. It wasn't awful, and he had a couple really, really nice driving layups, but he's still so far from where we think he can be, that I just thought it was worth noting in the bad.
I would not put his performance last night in the bad. That's where I will agree to disagree over the whole, right? But I'm also looking at it through Caleb Foster tinted eyeglasses, right? I want him to do better. I thought the confidence, again, started out slow, but he built up from there, and he made some good plays. And so hopefully I'll take his second half, which I thought was pretty good and some of the best ball he's been playing in a while. I will take his second half and use it hopefully as a springboard for him for the rest of the season.
I like that. All right, neither good nor bad, but before we get to the play of the game, I just want to note something for the record. Write it down, people. Naheem McLeod is the loudest player in the country. It is, it is unbelievable when that guy goes for a rebound. And by the way, he doesn't jump. He can't really get off the ground. But when was so loud, you could hear him 3 counties away. It was just kind of funny. I just wanted to note that.
He had a great game. He had more points. He had more points last night than he had all season. So again, we talked about him being a guy in the middle, and he played a lot more last night.
Yep.
Probably considering the fact that Man was in the game, right? And again, it was very comical when McLeod first entered the game, and I was like, oh no, Man looks small next to him. That is the first time this year I've seen Man look small next to anybody, and or anything, and that includes the basketball rim. But for the first time, he had to kind of look up and see a guy. I thought, McLeod did well against Man and against Malik Brown, but it was interesting to see that because I feel like, again, we're going to play Florida State later on, and Florida State is the second tallest team in the country. So again, something that Man can take and go, hey, there's going to be another game, at least one more game this year, right? Where there's going to be guys as tall, if not as taller than me on the floor. How do I deal with that?
All right, let's get to the play of the game. Are you taking it could have been an assist play?
I am.
Go for it, sir. The floor is yours.
Okay. Let me tell you about the progression of how I got to this first. I'm not going to give the plays, but there was basically 6 or 7 plays that I had written down, including a couple that I was starting to write down, and then a friend would text me and go, you better have that for play of the game. And then seconds later, they would go, okay, you better have that as your play of the game.
Believe me, my list was long. My list is
that
long.
ended with about 4 minutes and 1 second left in the game. Khaman Maluach, Man had a volleyball spike block that, I mean, first of all, he jumped in the air for it. He wanted it, and he spiked it hard. He blocked this thing so hard that the ball flew past half court, where Isaiah Evans was like, nobody's going to get this ball? Okay, I'll do it. Picks it up probably on the other side of the Syracuse logo, takes 2 dribbles, and then somebody went with him. I don't know who it was, but he turned somebody into a poster on that. First of all, the reason why Man is not credited with assists is because Slim took 2 dribbles. And I think that's a travesty.
No, that's wrong.
That is a travesty.
So here's the thing. If he had caught the ball in midair as opposed to spiking it, come down and thrown it, he would have gotten a block and an assist. Why is the fact that
he would have gotten a block, a rebound, and an assist. And he just got credit for the block on that play.
Oh, that's just wrong.
Which is a travesty. And again, it hurts our assist to field goals made numbers that we talk about so dearly. So add 1 to that, at least in our mind and our hearts. But that play, again, in a game with a bunch of great plays, that play had me, I wrote it in all caps because all the other ones just progressively got, more descriptive of why it was such a great play. Team passing, all the great play, dynamic build up. This one was just me just in all caps yelling at myself on my notes because that was such a great, fun play. And it didn't matter the scheme of the game, but that is my play of the game in a sea of play of the games.
All right, so my play of the game, and I agree with you, there are a lot of possibilities. With 12 and a half minutes left in the second half, Isaiah Evans rises up to take a 3-pointer. When he rises up to take the 3-pointer, Malik Brown is outside of the lane. He's almost out of the 3-point line. There's really no one from Duke who could get a rebound on the inside, and Isaiah misses. But Malik Brown has crashed hard to the basket on this play, and he's able to tip the rebound to Cooper Flagg. Cooper then makes an outrageous, it's a look away, just a crazy pass to the corner to Sion James. Sion is covered. And we talked earlier, Donald, about this, where Syracuse did a great job of staying with Duke for the first couple passes. So Sion is covered, and he whips the ball to the top to Caleb Foster, who takes a couple dribbles. Like I said, when you pass to Caleb, he's going to dribble it every time. He takes a couple dribbles. He gets closer to the lane, and he flips it back to Cooper Flagg. Cooper goes up, and he's contested. Syracuse does a nice job of staying with him, so he dumps it off to Malik. Syracuse recovers. They're doing a really good job of staying with the Duke guys. So Maliq tosses it back to Sion in the corner. Sion takes a couple more dribbles. He's cut off by Syracuse. At this point, though, it's all gone to hell for the Syracuse defense, and Sion drops it off to Malik Brown for a wide open layup. Every single guy on the team touched the ball, and the announcers said, quite wisely, they go, first of all, the dude went, good grief. Like, he was just like, hey, like, what do you do about that? And then he said, everyone on the team should get a quarter of an assist for that play. And he is damn right. The movement's coordinated. It's constructed. There's nothing wasted. Every pass is lightning quick. It results in the easiest shot around, even though I thought Syracuse was playing really good defense on that play. It was just a thing of beauty. This is how basketball is designed to be played, but it is rarely played at this level.
That play was amazing. Again, it was followed up like a minute and a half later by Cooper Flagg doing that juke step and then putting Naheem McLeod on a milk carton.
Yep.
And then followed up with a block at the other end. That was like my runner up there. But Jason, real quick, before we close out, we mentioned before this game that as of that recording, when we recorded the preview, Syracuse was 134 in the net, which made it just barely a quad 2 game on the road.
Yeah, no.
Yesterday, when we played them, because the net is updated every single day, yesterday they were at 135, which is right on the line for a quad 2 game. They are 145 today. That's how badly we beat them. We beat them so much they dropped 10 spots in the net, which is not easy to do. We remain at number 2 because the only team ahead of us is Auburn, and that's going to probably stay that way the rest of the year. But that just tells you how bad we beat them, that the net decided that this team is 10 spots lower than they were before they took the court against us. Great win by Duke. Let's go 1-0 on Saturday. We'll be back very, very soon, but like 1-0 on Saturday, that's now the focus.
Exactly. We turn our focus to Clemson. Folks, check your feed. Donald and I will be along with an extensive preview of what to expect from what a lot of people think is the toughest game left on Duke's schedule this Saturday against Clemson.
In the ACC.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Illinois is struggling a little bit now. I think a road game at Clemson may be tougher than just because where Illinois is at the moment. In any event, he's Donald. I'm Jason. They are the Duke Blue Devils. He's still undefeated in the ACC, Duke Blue Devils. And this is the Duke Blue Devil Band playing us out and taking us home.